Hi, everyone. I appreciate you taking time to meet and review the details of our household spend analysis. Everyone should have access to our final results and the prospect export that we generated based on our new model. I believe we have a mixed crowd today with some senior management joining us. So as a quick disclaimer, we will be going into the analytics weeds, especially for those in the data science group. For our agenda today, we'll first review how we define our top customer. Specifically, what is the criteria we should use that designates a household as one of our best? We'll then review the results from our customer profile research, where we describe our new customer profile and the data which supports it. Finally, we'll review our modeling evaluation, where we'll cover each modeling technique tested and discuss the final model used to generate our list of prospects. All right, let's discuss our best customers. In order to discover who they are, we needed to first define what a top spending customer is at our company. We decided that top customers are from households who generate revenue above the median spend, so the third and fourth quartiles of overall spend. As demonstrated on the left, on average, we see revenue between $340 to $410 from these homes, which may be worth targeting more attractive savings ads to encourage their spend. We also identified from our data set certain features that independently correlate with an increased amount of spend from a household, and those are shown on the right. With both of these in mind, our goal was to understand the behavior of households that fall under these quartiles in the context of these characteristics to devise an appropriate profile. Given our research, we defined our high spending customers as our California dreamers. They are the last of the baby boomer generation, predominantly in California, that work to achieve the promise of the middle-class American dream, such as single-family home living at a reasonable cost. Even though they were raised before the rise of modern technology, they don't shy away from it. However, they are more apt to doing some things the old-fashioned way, such as buying a hard copy of a favorite novel. And they are socially conscious as reflected in their giving, which even though leans in a similar direction as other customers, they make sure to give a bit more than most. Now let's take a look at the evidence which helped shape this profile. First, we reviewed customer data within spending quartiles against various demographic data, including age, education, average store visits, and estimated home values. We noted that those in the upper quartiles were slightly younger on average, around 62 years old, and had similar years of education as those in the other spending quartiles. We also saw the estimated home values of those who spend above the median are actually lower on average than those who spend less. And they visit BB&Y slightly less overall than those who spend less than below the median. When looking at locations where our customers are apt to spend more money, here's what we found: a strong association across the board with California, which is one of the two states that have the most impact on increasing levels of spend. We also found that higher spenders do tend to live in single-family homes versus those who spend below the median. But to clarify, this is strictly dwelling in a single-family home. It doesn't mean they actually own the home. Dreamers are also more likely to actually purchase books and own computers, which might seem a bit contradictory, but this is what we are finding in our dreamers, that they are leaning more towards technology, but they still want to keep with things that are old-fashioned. And they do this more often than those who spend less with BB&Y. And finally, the clearest distinction amongst our high spending customers is their focus on charitable donations. Across the board, there is a higher percentage of donors to various causes in the upper spending quartiles versus the lower spending ones, with local community causes and healthcare donations accounting for most of charitable giving. Now that we better understand our high revenue households, let's discuss our methods for identifying them. During our research, we attempted 4 different modeling techniques with various tuning methods for predicting spend. This included linear regression and several tree-based algorithms. All models were scored using the mean absolute error, over root mean squared error in order to not heavily penalize the model, since there is not a great cost incurred if we occasionally send mistargeted ads. In the first model, we used a classic linear regression with a backward stepwise calculation to determine the lowest subset of features for the model that had the best performance. We then compared that to two other linear models whose features were selected based on general knowledge of the dataset or trial and error. The best performing model by MAE in this case was the one that leveraged interaction terms, specifically interaction of the single family dwelling variable with other variables, such as computer ownership, that had a strong positive or negative influence on spend. Next, we generated a regression decision tree that was tuned using a range and complexity parameters with the best value found at 0.01. The variables applied at split points in the tree on the right are similar to those we previously identified as correlated with high spend. They also were influential in the best linear regression model. The decision tree did beat the linear's model, however, not by a large margin, so we continued our investigation. We then investigated a random forest model using 4 different ensemble configurations from 3 trees up to 50. Important variables included ones we've seen consistently, such as dwelling unit size variables. However, we also saw importance in not having a magazine subscription. As the tree numbers were increased, we did get closer to the lowest score. However, we were unable to beat it. And moving up the number of trees had diminishing returns with increased execution time and overfitting, which led to decreased performance on the validation set. XGBoost was the final model tested and the only one which leverages gradient boosting. The goal was to see if any considerable strides could be made by ensembles that iteratively reduce the tree's residuals versus the majority rule style predictions found in random forests. We see again the same variables, dwelling units and computer ownership, highlighted as important to the model, as defined by information gain values. After tuning various parameters for tree depth in rounds or number of trees, the best XGBoost model was found with a max depth of 2 and 250 trees. After final review, we determined that XGBoost offered the best overall performance as dictated by mean absolute error. Testing this against the provided test set produced results that were consistent with our validation results, with an error of approximately 65.67. So we have confidence that the performance will be similar on the prospect data set. In reviewing the performance of these models in general, we were a bit disappointed in the level of accuracy achieved. So my hope is in the future, we can obtain additional data about our customers that can help better reflect their propensity to spend, which may help to reduce the bias we see in these current models. However, I do believe that this model will be reasonably effective in predicting high spend households and aid in targeting customers in our upcoming ad campaigns. All right, that concludes the review of our household revenue analysis project. Thanks everyone for attending today. I'm going to hang on the line, so please let me know if you have any questions.